Support for the Common Knowledge podcast is brought to you by puremtgo.com. You can support the show personally by going to patreon.com/common knowledge. And you can email the show at commonknowledgemtg@gmail.com.
This is Common Knowledge, a Magic the Gathering podcast about improving at the game with a focus on pauper play. It's not about the cost, it's about the knowledge. Welcome to Common Knowledge. Here are your hosts, Brandon Clark and Lobbert. Enjoy this week's episode of Common Knowledge.
Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. This is episode 30 of Common Knowledge. I'm your host, Brandon Clark, and joined with me is Sean the Lobbert.
What's up?
What's up?
No adjective this week.
I've run out of adjectives. That was last week, remember? Did you even listen?
I did listen, but I was going to comment whether or not you had run out of adjectives.
I've run out of adjectives, man. I'm not that creative. My vocabulary doesn't run that deep. Hey, for those of you who are confused about this third voice/face, who is this guy?
You're going to make him introduce himself?
Yeah, that's...
It's Spencer Howland.
Hey, everybody.
Our friend/boss/content producer.
Yeah, how's it going? I'm like, it was really funny because when you guys asked me to be on, it's like, oh man, I wanted to do this for like a year. I was very excited.
I really wanted to get like the legs under the podcast and like actually get the sound quality up before we had other people on. Like that was really it, is like getting the sound quality to where I felt comfortable and then getting people on.
Well, shout out to Appearin for, first of all, having amazing sound quality, because they're the best. And then also shout out to whoever got Brandon that microphone, because that sounds way better than what was happening before.
Yeah, who did that? What a good person. Yeah. But yeah, like Sean said, we just needed to make sure that our show was up to the standards of a former Pro Tour competitor like yourself.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's exactly what you guys were waiting for.
Boom. Okay, well, we've got a really exciting show for you guys. Obviously, we have an awesome guest on with us, but let's jump into it with our card of the week.
So this week for card of the week, we're doing Flame Slash. Why did we pick Flame Slash?
Well, I think the real reason we picked Flame Slash is due to about a 15-minute argument before the podcast in which Brandon demanded that there was literally a huge difference between Is It Delver and Blue-Red Delver, as they're called, on MTG Goldfish.
About what did we decide? A $12 difference.
Yeah, I think that's
like
about
an entire deck in Pauper.
I don't think it is. But the only thing that seemed to come out of the conversation was that if you play Flame Slash instead of Scred, you can kill a turn one, the 1/4 from Mono White Heroic.
It's a 0/4.
The 0/4, sorry. So
Laguna Band Trailblazer.
Thank you. Which means that you should not spend the money on Screds because it just makes your Mono White matchup worse.
Yep. You heard it here first, guys.
No, I actually think that we had a pretty good conversation about Flame Slash, right? If you think about it, like Flame Slash kills, I think we said basically every creature in the format outside of Gurmag Angler. So I don't think a lot of people realize that it's basically Path to Exile in this format, or I guess Source of Plowshares.
I think the biggest difference is just the instant speed versus the sorcery speed, right?
And that's true of Scred too, right? It's also Scred's an instant and Flame Slash is a sorcery.
Yeah, so I think that like you're trading a few percentage points in what is realistically a non-existent matchup. Like, you'll very, very rarely have it come up where you're playing against a deck where you're just like, man, I really needed a Flame Slash here, and not that, man, I really wish my Flame Slash was an instant.
I have to disagree because Affinity exists. Like, they're running so many 4/4s.
We've got monkeys, yo.
So I also think that it's important to note that other decks can play Flame Slash, right? So like it's not just between Is It Delver and Blue-Red Delver. This is the stupidest thing in the world. I actually don't know why they're separated. But if you like think about it, when you play something like a Tron deck, you could sideboard that if you needed to. If you play Affinity, you can sideboard that if you needed to. And then something like Is It Blitz is probably going to play a couple main. They're even going to be able to have access to them in the sideboard. Whereas like none of these decks can really actually play enough snow-covered lands to play Scred. And to be honest, I don't think that you'd even want to in something like Is It Blitz, right? The only other deck that I can think of off the top of my head that would main deck something like this, maybe called Boros, although I don't think that they would. Just because you need to be able to kill the thing in your way for a very low amount of mana. So you want it to kill everything that could be in your way, right? So for something like Is It Blitz, Flame Slash is just better anyway.
It removes your ability to play gain lands, and any kind of creative thing you want to do with your mana base, you can no longer do if you have that Scred. And
right.
I've been playing that like a mono red mid-range deck that I'm trying to brew up, and I've switched between the two, and I've won more with Flame Slash because actually Heroic has been a thing. Affinity, like I wanted to play the cycle lands, and Flame Slash was doing it. It was the better thing, even though it was a monocolor deck and I could totally just jam all snow lands.
I don't have anything else to talk about for this.
Well, can we get your opinion really quick? If Blue-Red Delver and Is It Delver are different decks?
They are in fact different. One has snow-covered lands and Flame Slash, and the other has in Scred, and the other has regular basic lands and Flame Slash.
Which is better?
So
and
that's
why?
like 13 different cards. No, 11. That's like 15 different cards.
Yes, it is. It is in fact 15 different cards. That is actually what it is.
So it's a very different deck.
Unless you're rich enough to just play the snowlands anyway to trip up your opponent, like trick them, and then they're
well 4
Scred. Cards different.
No, I think in
It's
the
two
context,
cards.
I think in the context of Delver, you should be playing with Scred because the instant speed is very important. There's a lot less that you're like, I absolutely have to be able to remove this now. You know, and I think that you guys are right, though. You hit it on the head. These other decks that can't afford to get pigeonholed into the snow-covered lands plus Evolving Wilds plus Ash Barrens mana base, they need to be playing their dual lands, whatever. They can't afford to play Scred anyway, but I also agree that they probably don't want to. They probably would rather have Flame Slash.
One of the decks that is super interesting to me that nobody plays is just like a straight-up green-red Tron deck. And I actually think Flame Slash is like a big get for that deck.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue that Flame Slash is not a really good card.
I think most of the time it's better, but in the one instance of Scred Delver where you like just blue red is both Spellstutter and Scred, so that if they try to enchant their creature, you can blow them out, or you can be mana efficient and get it on their turn so you can untap with everything. That's like the things that set it apart in that deck, because you're operating at instant speed so much.
Right.
All right, well, that was our card of the week. So let's just jump real quick into our next segment of the show. What are we playing? We kind of already talked about what I'm playing. It's what I'm always playing, and that's just Scred. But I do want to note, again, I'm seeing a lot of green decks in leagues still. Elves, Stompy, and it's weird. I don't play against a lot of Delver mirrors. Like, I play maybe one every other league. I'll play against the Delver mirror. But there are just green decks everywhere.
Yeah, it's a strong color in the format. I don't know why you're surprised.
It's just picking up a lot, and I'm not surprised as much as I want to make sure everyone knows.
Yeah,
pack your Swirling Sandstorms if you need them. If you can play a third Electricity in your sideboard, play it. You know, just be prepared for go wide green strategies because they are just more popular than ever right now.
It's funny. There's you mentioned that it hadn't top aided. Stompy hadn't top aided a challenge in weeks. And it once again only has 0 top 8s this week and only has a 4-2. And honestly, like I would love your guys' opinion on this, but I don't know what this deck beats in Pauper right now.
So we've talked about this before, why it doesn't excel in challenges and why it's so prominent in leagues. And we think the reason is you get a lot of fluff in leagues, and Stompy just punishes silly things. And you'll get a lot more brews and a lot more untuned deck lists, and Stompy just punishes those. But when you get into these leagues where there's a more
these challenges,
where the metagame is more tuned in.
Right.
I think that's where Stompy struggles.
I think my actual question, though, is, like, if you look at established decks, so if you just look at the top 5, right? If you look at Izzet Delver, Koldatha, Tron, Burn, and Elves, I don't think it has a good matchup against any of those.
Okay. With Delver, what Delver's trying to do is get ahead and then, counter, just maintain its aheadness, which is totally a word. And how do you get ahead of Stompy? It's just playing more things faster.
Yeah, and Stompy is the reason that Scred Delver even exists, because it was just mono blue Delver. And people will argue all the time that mono blue is the superior Delver deck when it comes to those two facing off head to head. But mono blue can't beat Stompy. Without Lightning Bolt, without Scred, it really struggles to deal with all those creatures. So the deck evolved into Scred so that we can handle those things, so that we can use our 1 mana instant speed spells to get under their creatures and then be able to use our mana for counterspell on their relevant spells like Elephant Guide and whatever.
Yeah, I think that between Spell Spreader, Sprite, Counterspell, Scred, and Lightning Bolt, and then Swirling Sandstorm, like every time I've played Izzet Delver, like I just don't lose to Stompy in leagues. That's actually why I'm asking the question.
Well, I guess I should preface that I don't generally lose to it either. It's just that it's there and it's prominent. People play it for whatever reason.
That used to be one of my main decks, and it goes under Tron. It punishes removal decks for trying to play removal. I really liked it, and just like the fact that you have the chance to go under pretty much everything. It's one of those decks with the nut draws. Like if you go first, like you have such a good chance of winning. That's what I felt.
Yeah, I've actually never played Tron in Pauper personally, so maybe I could just be dead wrong. I just assumed it had a bad Tron matchup because of size difference and speed of the format, but it could be terrible for Tron. I guess I don't know.
It's more even than you'd think it would be, with it doing the exact thing Tron doesn't want to face. But I want to say that Stompy is favored. But
okay,
that's from like, I don't know, 6 months ago. They've changed quite a bit.
I just think the prominence of it in leagues is just a popularity thing. People like playing it. It can do powerful things, You
can play a league in an hour and a half.
Yeah, and it has those hands that are unbeatable sometimes, where you just like play a 2-drop or a 2-powered creature on turn 1, and then 3 2-powered creatures on turn 2, and then on turn 3 put an Elephant Guide on something and you win. It just has those I win hands, and I think that's something that a lot of Magic players are drawn to.
But to move on, this week I'm just playing that same mono red mid-range deck. I think I've talked about it as much as I want to talk about it before I switch to the next deck. So what have you been playing, Spencer?
So I play Pauper pretty regularly, and I kind of have my favorite decks that I kind of cycle through. I was on like the really bad mono red aggro deck for a long time. Like I think I played like 7 or 8 leagues with that in a row. But I've kind of gone back to my old favorite. So a lot of Izzet Blitz. Izzet Blitz is my favorite deck in Pauper by a pretty significant margin. It's the second deck I ever bought in Pauper, and it got really bad, and now it's getting better again, like in the meta. So it's really fun. And I actually really enjoy Blue Black Control, Gurmag Anglers, basically all day. And then a deck that I picked up recently that was really fun was Mono White Heroic. And if you run into a league, it's actually probably significantly better in leagues than it is in like a challenge, because in leagues you're going to play against a ton of red decks, and mono white just kicks red decks in. Like That's it's just true. Like no, like
you're not 0-4.
You're not doing that. So it kind of just depends on my mood, but those are the 3 decks that I probably have been playing the most in Pauper lately, with kind of a really big emphasis on Izzet Blitz and mono white lately.
I think that for as much as I poo-poo on Izzet Blitz, I think that's a deck that I like to hate on and say is really bad. But you do have a good point. It is getting a lot better in the format right now. And anytime it gets, or anytime a player is disincentivized from playing edict effects like they are in this current meta, Izzet Blitz will shine. It's got a fast linear game plan, but then it can also kind of switch gears and just play a really strong aggro role. Which is something I do like about the deck a lot.
Yeah, I'm interested to see that people have started playing Dispels rather than all of the Apostles' Blessings and stuff like that. One of the things that I am pretty demanding on when I play the deck personally, I think that it's pretty crazy not to play what's the spell that gives Shadow?
Shadow Rift.
Shadow Rift. Yeah, I almost always either have a 1 or a 2 of Shadow Rift. The reason for that I think it's really important, and I actually did a deck tech on this for the Constructive Criticism YouTube channel where you're watching this right now. So if you're watching the video, so being able to target your opponent's creature if it's their single creature with Shadow Rift lets your entire team get in. So if you have both a Nivik Cyclops and a Kiln Fiend in play, and like Shadow Rift already acts as both sides of like an Artful Dodge, for example. So I usually have a 1-1 split between those at the very least.
That is so spicy. How did that never occur to me?
So
It's
I
been
play
done
this deck
to
a lot,
me,
by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't play decks like this very much. I've ran Tireless Tribe through a couple of leagues, but that just has never come up. But that is some common knowledge right there. Shadow Rift your opponent's one creature so you can get in with your team.
Yep.
Holy
So
value.
I think that's a pretty big mistake that people have been making lately. And then I'm actually not sure which is correct between Delver of Secrets and Augur of Bolas. One of the things that Augur of Bolas allows you to do is it does a really good job of like holding the ground. And it's weird how many times like you can attack with Augur of Bolas. So I'm not sure. I actually wonder if you can play like what's the maximum number of spells you think you have to play, Sean? Like you think it's 30? Do you think it's like how many is like, or not the maximum, the minimum. For specifically Delver, to be honest, is what I'm asking.
Well, let's
I think
25?
28 probably.
Yeah, it's somewhere in there.
Well, if we just look at current deck lists, the current Scred Delver deck list plays 22
perfect
instants and sorceries.
Right, cool. So one thing that I have considered doing is playing like 3 Augur of Bolas, 4 Delver, and stuff like that. And it looks like Pinato, I don't know if I said that right, 5-0 to league with a 3-3 split with them this week. So next time I jump onto Pauper, I'll probably be trying out some different stuff like that. But yeah, that's what I've been playing. That's what I'm constantly thinking about in Pauper.
And I gotta say, I've seen your blue-black control list, and I'm confused.
Yeah, I tried to play it against Sean in one of our head-to-head things.
He's like, what are you doing over here? He's like, it's Spencer.
I was like, I don't know. This is Spencer's deck list.
It is 100% a Spencer brew. It is
Spencer original.
Yeah, it is not like the blue-black control list that you would typically see. I think it's just like 2 Mole Drifter, 4 Augur, 4 Gurmag, right?
I can't remember. It was like a month ago when I played the list. I just remember like I would like get cards in my hand and I'd be like, I gotta read this card. And I cast it and Sean's just like, what is going on with this deck? And I'm like, it's not my deck, man.
At least you're not playing Consult the Necrosages, just saying.
I don't actually know what that card does, but
leave it that way.
I think
You're
I think that it tilted me last time I played Pauper. You don't get QPs in Pauper leagues, right?
No.
Okay, I think I went on full-blown tilt because I 5-0'd and was super excited with blue-black, and like I didn't get my QPs, and I was like, what is this?
It's like, yeah, it's a casual format.
Yeah, they're all casual leagues.
So I was pretty upset, and I don't think I played blue-black since.
Okay, so did you have something you wanted to talk about before we jumped into the main thing, Spencer?
Yeah, so a chance for me to be on the show is a chance to kind of talk about something really important, and that's the Constructive Criticism Network and how common knowledge fits into that, because this podcast is like my baby in a weird way that it has now become Sean's baby, and it makes me sad. But so originally the idea was like I could literally not find a listenable Pauper podcast to save my life, and I specifically wanted one that's like, what are the good decks? What are you playing against? Why are you playing against them? What do you like? What can we do to like attack this format and like try and just grind value in Pauper, because it's a super fun format, right? And like helping you get better at Magic through Pauper. And so like I got some hosts together. They lasted for a couple of weeks. They quit. I got some new hosts together. Only one of them lasted. His name was Brandon. Brandon invites Sean on, and it was kind of amazing. Like as somebody who produces Magic content, who owns like this small media company of Magic content, Sean is a dream come true. He is. I'm supposed to like when we started this, I was supposed to write the shows. I don't need to write the shows. Sean does everything that I could ever need. And so a lot of it is just like me looking at the show, making sure that like I like the topic, and like what I've left you guys notes like 3 times. Like you guys are just crushing it. And I want to say thank you for that. And in addition to that, I really believe in transparency about finances for across this network. And so when the show was started, I owned 33% of the show along with the 2 co-hosts. Since these guys have taken over and done so much, I've given a lot of that back to them. So I just want you guys to know that when you support Common Knowledge on Patreon at patreon.com/common knowledge, or CKMTG, I actually don't remember which it is.
It's Common Knowledge, yeah.
Okay. It goes to these guys, and they really deserve it. So if you, starting at $1, anything really helps. Like we're talking Popper here; these guys are just gonna throw that into their decks. So I just want to say thank you to Sean, and thank you to the listeners, and thank you to Brandon for just always improving and really embodying everything that I believe in that a podcast can be in Magic. And I just want to say thanks.
Yeah, and you are welcome to write any show notes you want, because I think my girlfriend will appreciate that.
My wife won't. Sean is so great that I gotta do 2 more magic related content because he exists.
Well, that's cool. Are we ready to get into the main topic?
Yeah, let's do it. So our main topic this week is we're a little less geared towards specifically Pauper, and this is going to be something that can more be applied to any aspect of Magic, whatever format you like to play,
and life,
and real life too. I think this is going to be something that can carry over into anything you try to do, and that is goals. But we're going to be kind of talking about Pauper goals, obviously, because we're a Pauper podcast. But that's what we're going to talk about: goals, how to set goals, how to achieve your goals, what makes a good goal. We're going to try to go through all that and give you guys an awesome show today. So let's just jump right into the meat of it. The first thing we want to talk about, and this is something that maybe some of you will be familiar with and maybe you won't, but that is a SMART goal. A SMART goal, it's an acronym, actually. It's for S, specific, M, measurable, A, attainable, R, realistic, and T, time-based. And this is something that's used in the business world a lot. And from my professional background working in production and setting goals, this was something that they really just railed into the lower management of setting SMART goals for your teams and doing all these stuff. So I love taking this and applying it to my own life in everything I do, including Magic. And so that's kind of why I wanted to talk about it today, because it's something that I do specifically, and I think it'll be very helpful to anyone who tries.
You know what I hate, though?
Tell me.
Business acronyms. Oh my gosh. Anyway, keep going.
Bow body. We're making acronyms. Okay, so the first thing that I like to do when I'm setting a SMART goal is I kind of like to just take a look inside and try to figure out what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to accomplish. So setting a SMART goal, they require a lot of deep personal reflecting. You need to kind of understand your own limitations. In the context of Magic, that would be as a player, and then your own capabilities. The second thing that you need to do is you need to write it down. Because if your goal isn't written down, it's just a thought. It's just a good thought.
This is actually really important. So I did a series on YouTube about how to improve at Magic the Gathering. And the first video was entirely about making the decision to do it and then putting that decision into action. Because just saying, I'm going to get better at Magic the Gathering doesn't make you better at Magic the Gathering. You have to literally take some sort of action in order to achieve any goal. And this is just part of it.
Yeah. Accountability plays a really big role in setting goals, and especially in Magic.
I'm going to be probably playing the devil's advocate in a lot of this, because I never write anything down as far as...
I don't think it necessarily has to be written down. I just mean that in some way, doing something... I have this conversation with people who quit smoking, my coworkers, pretty often, where they're like, yeah, I'm quitting smoking. I'm like, no, you're not. You're smoking a cigarette right now. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, here's the truth. You either are a smoker or you are not a smoker. And right now you are currently a smoker. So like you're on one side of this. Not like it's like the Yoda thing, right? There's no try. You don't get to try and quit smoking. You're not quitting smoking. You're either smoking that cigarette or you're not. And so like it's up to you to decide where you're at from here. And it's funny, I got two people who quit smoking this way, but the same thing is kind of true of goals, right? It's like I'm gonna get my first pro point this year was a goal of mine a couple of years back, right? Mm-hmm. And I can't achieve that goal if I don't go to GPs, right? So, or qualify for the pro tour. Those are the only way to get pro points. Yeah. So if I do neither of those things, was it ever really a goal of mine?
Yeah, because I don't ever write anything down, but like when I set my mind to something, like it consumes me. Like it's all I think about. I stay up at night, just like my mind won't shut off about it. And like getting myself to that point is the tricky part. But once I get there, like wanting to do something and then getting absorbed in the act of doing it is the huge difference for me. And just getting absorbed in the act of doing it, I think, is the key.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think for me, writing it down transitions into my next point, which is creating a plan. I'm the type of personality that when I learn and when I do things, I need to have structure to it. You know, I can't just wake up one morning, decide that I'm going to do something, put my mind to it, and then be able to just focus when I need to focus on doing that. And so I need to write down what my goals are, and then I need to write down and create a plan for myself of how I'm going to actually achieve this goal. You know, my goal is to day 2 a GP or whatever. I need to go to GPs. So I need to go through now and I need to look at the GP schedule and figure out what GPs I can go to. Then I need to create a playtesting plan. How am I going to playtest for this GP? What deck am I going to select? And all these things. And when I write it down and put it into a structure, that really helps organize me and help me focus my time on it and my attention.
Yeah. Can we go to the AR part? Actually, can we go to the art part of this? Because one of the things that I find interesting about your measurable standpoint is I actually really hate most measurable goals that people try and give themselves in Magic. And I'm going to explain why. And we've talked about this on constructive criticism a few times. So let's say that your goal is to win an FNM. That doesn't mean your goal is to win this FNM, right? So like you're playing a Pauper FNM. Your goal is to win a Pauper FNM by the end of the year. That's a good goal. A bad goal is to win this Pauper FNM. So there's a very distinct difference between these two things, because one of them, it's actually funny. This episode was going to be on Tilt, and instead this exact conversation brought us to do this episode instead, because the truth is that your expectations of your goal are really important to leading you to that goal being achievable and attainable. Because if my goal is to top 8 a GP one day, and every single GP I go into, my goal is to top 8 that GP, eventually I'm going to get burned out of GPs because I'm very rarely going to be attaining my goal, right? If my goal is to top 8 a GP this year, but I'm going to go to 11 GPs, right? Giving myself plenty of chances. And my goal through those GPs is going to be to improve at Magic and to play tight and to play every individual game possible. That's a very different goal than top 8ing this specific GP. And I think that Pauper can do the same thing for you. I think that you can like a really good example is Pauper challenges, right? Like I want to win a Pauper challenge, but don't make that goal to be win this Pauper challenge. Otherwise, every time you lose, you upset yourself.
And I think that's how you get people. Like we used to play FNM with this guy. I'm not gonna say his name, but he would have this. It would be a really good deck, an expensive deck, and he would end up going 0-1 drop because he would be so mad.
I have to look this guy up now.
He would be so mad that he didn't win.
I don't think he plays Magic anymore.
That he didn't win the first round, and his goal was ruined, that he wouldn't test. He set aside the whole night to play, and he only played one round, and so he's going against his goal because his goal was to win that one. He just wanted to crush it instead of getting better at the game.
And I don't want to go too hard into this because I don't want this to become a business seminar, but I think it's important to understand kind of the differences between the M, the A, the R, the T here. So measurable is less about creating how long you have to do it, and it's more about setting a number. So I want to win 1 Pauper challenge, or I want to top 8 2 GPs, right?
And I think that also on measurable, we have to understand the difference between quantitative and qualitative, goal setting and goal measurables and things like that. How do you measure quantitative versus qualitative? Like, that's, by the way, does everybody know what that is? Am I speaking
I understand
gibberish?
It.
Okay.
You could probably go into it. No, I get what you're saying, but
okay, hold on. I'm actually going to pull up the definition because I think it's important. So I think that when you look at like a quantitative versus a qualitative, thing. So like for a quantitative thing, it's relating to measuring or measured by the quantity of something, right? Where you look at qualitative, it's relating and measuring to the quality of something, right? So if I'm measuring how much better I'm getting at Magic, I can do that through long-term quantitative data, and then quantitatively I can prove qualitative things. But if you set quantitative versus qualitative goals, you have to understand that going into them, right? How am I proving that I'm better at Magic? And then quantitatively, if I set my goal at winning that Pauper challenge, I only have 1 shot, right? So it's a 1-to-1 ratio rather than like a scale where it's like, okay, well, I did this well, then this well, then this well, I got better. And then you're actually proving the qualitative side too, right? So the more quantitative data gives you more, they have to work together.
Yeah. And I think that is especially important in Magic, where maybe results aren't the best way to measure your skills as a Magic player. Because I will say the first time I won a PPTQ, I felt really good about myself. But now when I look back on that 2 or 3 years ago, whenever that was, and I think about the way I played and who I was as a player, I don't think I'm anywhere as close to where I am now as a player, even though I'm winning less PPPTQs. PPPTQs.
Pikachu.
If that makes sense.
I hope that makes the podcast. That was the most Pauper thing ever said on a Pauper podcast.
But you kind of get what I'm saying, though, right? Is in Magic, sometimes you can't be results oriented all the time, but I do think it's important to put a quantitative measurable next to your goal to sort of give you a vision of what you're trying to achieve. Because I can say that, you know what, I think I'm a better Magic player than I was 3 years ago. And I can tell you that, I can think of different lines of play that I never would have thought of, or I can look at a board state and make out lines better than I could a year ago or whatever. But there's not really a quantifiable way to discern that. And so I think they do go hand in hand, like you said. And I do think kind of everything we're talking about here goes into the create a plan section, where we're going to get specific on our goals. So we're going to say, I want to win a Pauper challenge. That's our measurable right there. 1 Pauper challenge. We want to win 1 Pauper challenge. We need to make sure that goal is attainable. I think that goal is attainable. Is it realistic? Yeah, I could realistically win a Pauper challenge. Like Spencer said, if my goal was to win this week's Pauper challenge, that might be attainable, but it's probably not realistic.
Yeah, and
that's where time-based comes into context. Is we're now, how long do I think I need to get myself ready to win a Pauper challenge? So you're going to set your goal out, make it realistic, but push yourself to it, right? Like, don't give yourself 3 years to prepare to win a Pauper challenge. Maybe give yourself 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, however long you personally think you'd take to do it, right?
I don't know what Sean and Brandon think about this, but I also think that one of the things that people make a lot of mistakes with in goal setting specifically is like, okay, so I set this goal out that I want to do this in 3 months. Okay, the end of the 3 months happened. Did you actually do it? And did you reflect on why you didn't do it or what you did to make it possible? So whether you achieve it or don't achieve it, you need to have that moment where you look back on the goals that you set and say, did I do it? Did I not do it? How did I achieve it, or how did I not achieve it? And I think that's really, really important.
I think something we kind of touched on, I don't think it's anywhere here in the notes, but giving multiple chances for you to succeed. Like, even the best Magic player isn't like gonna win the very first time he plays a challenge. So you have to have those multiple instances so that the statistics work out, so that you can, like, if you have a 70% win rate, and that's just like your normal is 70%, you're only going to win one challenge in, I don't know,
3.
No, way less than that.
Way less than that.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's with a 70% win rate. Like, and that's your
Which,
goal
by the
shouldn't
way,
even be to get to 70%.
Yeah, the pros on the Pro Tour that like play the best, like, I mean, it's significantly less than that, right? It's like in the 60s. Like some of the best in like the 65%. So
yeah,
it's. I mean, sure, yeah. Some people go to their first Pro Tour and they top 8, right? Some people play their first Pauper Challenge and yeah, they could win it. But like that doesn't mean that that should be the goal, right? They still need to be realistic. And I think that one thing that we like to do as humans is we see the big thing, right? We see this big shiny object and we want the big shiny object, but we don't like the process of getting the big shiny object. And if you are results oriented rather than process oriented, attaining goals in Magic is going to be really hard for you because you're not looking at the things that you can do in your process to achieve that big shiny object that you want.
It's not about the destination. It's about the journey, man.
And we're playing a game. It's supposed to be fun. You should have fun on your way to your goal. It shouldn't just be... Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I know like you're both like extreme spikes.
Says the guy who won't play Commander unless he can win.
Okay, my issue with Commander is there's 4 people, so my statistic to win is base 25%, and that is less fun.
Hold on.
So your fun is determined by whether you win or lose?
Are we going to talk about EDH right now? Because if so, I'm getting off this call.
I just got triggered. He brought... Oh, gosh.
Sports ball is Spencer's trigger word, and EDH is Sean's trigger word, just in case anyone needed to know that.
I think to Sean's point, you should enjoy the goals that you're setting for yourself. So, like, a really good example of this is, like, I want a 5-0 league with my own personal brew. That's a really fun goal. Like, that's fun. Mm-hmm. And that can be a goal that you set for yourself in Pauper. It doesn't have to be win a Pauper challenge. And that's one of the beauties about Pauper. For me, I don't even have time to play Pauper challenges. So, like, that would not be a goal that I set for myself. But what I could do is I could say, okay, well, I want to understand Pauper completely. So my goal is to like play 3 different decks a month in Pauper, like maybe 5-0 a league with 3 different decks a month in Pauper. That gives me a lot of opportunities to 1, play lots of different decks, 2, do well in Magic and improve at Magic, and 3, like it gives me an attainable goal. And all of that's super self-fulfilling and it makes the game more fun.
That's the kind of goals I like. Is I feel like I never set a goal of endpoints of win a Pauper challenge. To me, that feels like I don't like that goal at all. I like setting the goal to play in every Pauper challenge or play in 2 Pauper challenges a month, and you'll get that goal as a side effect because you're going to be getting better and you're going to be already achieving your goal by just participating.
Hold on, Bill Belichick. I got to put on my hat to talk about this.
Sports ball.
So this is actually something that like that watching Patriots football has taught me really well. And Brandon can get upset. I really don't care. But like in all honesty, when
I love watching them dirty cheaters.
When you literally are a fan of the biggest cheating team in the NFL's history, so stop it. Like literally paid extra money under the table to their players to win every Super Bowl they've ever won. Please stop. I hate Broncos fans so much.
How much of that can I cut out?
You can. I don't care.
You can keep it all in there. It's so true.
There's literally anyway. Okay, but one of the things that I learned from sports ball, and specifically from the Patriots, is the do your job mentality. Right? If I buy into a process that then the accolades come later, right? You never like. It was really funny when Tom Brady, who's a quarterback in the NFL, for those who don't know, the best of all time, when he was coming up, people would criticize him like, "Why don't you do commercials? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do this?" And the thing is that they really did believe that if we just win, everything else that we could achieve in this game will just come from that. And the same thing is true of what Sean's talking about. If I play in enough Pauper challenges, I'm playing against higher competition, I'm learning, and eventually that winning the Pauper challenge will just come because I'm improving as I do this. So if I make the process my goal rather than the end goal my goal, eventually the process will work itself out and I'll achieve all of the goals I could ever want.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I think the best piece of tournament Magic advice that I'd ever heard was your goal. Your goal should obviously be to win, but you shouldn't always be thinking about, okay, I need to go X and 1 for the rest of the day. It should always be my next match. I need to win my next match. Okay, I won my match. What do I need to do now? I just need to play another game of Magic and I need to win that match. You know? There was a focus on each step of the way of what you need to do. I need to do this, then I need to do this. Okay, that's done. What do I do next? And then find what you need to do next and get it done. And before you know it, like Sean said, and like Spencer is saying, you're going to be there.
One of the biggest learning moments for me in Magic was actually the exact same. We had this old Utah Invitational series that turned into this one-time Utah Magic Open that at round 1, I intentionally drew with Alex Sittner. He's a Silver Pro in Utah because we both wanted to play against the control decks in the room, and we got paired round 1. And then I think it was like 4 rounds later, and I was like, oh, one round left, because I was talking about getting into top 8, and he kind of tilts his head, and he's like, well, there's definitely not 1 round left. There's definitely I need to win 4 more matches, but I'm just gonna focus on this one now. Like I don't want to talk about the 4 rounds left. This taught me 2 things. One is that top 8 is not the end, and 2, that the important thing is the match in front of you, because if you don't win that match, then none of the other matches matter. If I'm in that win and I lose that in, I don't get the top 8 anyway. So if it's funny because it's like math, right? You have this big complex problem. So what you do is you break it down into smaller problems so that it's easier to solve. And tournament Magic, including Pauper, can be the same way, right? I can break it down into every individual decision, but that would hurt your head because Magic is so complicated. But instead, I can use those little micro learnings that I have throughout all of my time playing Magic to make the little decisions super easy, and then make the hard decisions really important, and then make winning every match really important. And then once I do that, or even just games, winning matches comes on its own, winning tournaments comes on its own, achieving my winning goals comes on its own.
I think what I'm stuck on is getting into the process of it. I think that's kind of what we're talking about. There's a lot to be said about surrounding yourself with people who have the same goal. I've been to way more PPTQs than I ever intended to be. I think I've intended to be at 1 ever that I've planned for. And every single other time, Brandon texts me like the day before and just says, hey, I'm going to this thing, come with me. And so he just pulls me along to something that honestly wasn't even really my goal, but I end up achieving it anyway. And if you do have that goal, having people that are pushing you or pulling you the whole way it's amazing.
Yeah, I agree.
Great. So I think we've had a lot of really good discussion about what goals mean to each of us. So let's transition for a minute and let's just talk about individually what some of our goals are in Magic. And that can be Pauper related, that can be Pro Tour related, whatever it is that we have a goal for. Let's just kind of talk about it and sort of focus on how we're working to achieve that goal. So Sean, do you want to kick us off?
Okay, so I was actually kind of dreading this podcast all day because of this little segment of what goals I have, because like I've said, I don't get caught up in a goal besides what I'm doing is like produce a piece of content every week for this. And something that I didn't really put into words but has always been in the back of my mind, and it's kind of become a mantra, is the always improving. Like I think about it a lot now of like, how can I make this better? How can I make it easier even?
Right? Like once you get into that mentality, it's like it takes over your life, man.
And that's why I love Magic to begin with, is it's an iterative process of I make a deck, it only gets better as I tweak it. Like it only improves if I make smart decisions. Like that's why I love programming. Like you make a thing and it just gets better and better and better until it's amazing. And
wait,
that's...
I didn't know you were an engineer.
I'm not. I went to school for software development though.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a product manager in software.
Yeah, it was. I went to like the DATC for just the software development. Anyway, so yeah, like I don't have a goal to make the #1 Pauper podcast, but that's something I do want. I'll never get upset because I don't attain that goal, because my goal is just to produce something cool and produce something better than last week and keep it quality.
I think that having your goal in Magic be like, if you're passionate about content creation right now, let your goals be about content creation. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no wrong way to like play or do Magic, man. Like,
yeah,
that's, as much as you and I, are probably never going to play EDH, that doesn't mean that like people are wrong for playing Commander, right?
Oh,
like
totally. But when they forced me to play Commander, Brandon,
hey,
I've never forced you to play Commander. I just said, hey, Sean, you've got 2 hours before your event. Come hop in this pod with me. You can say no. You can put your big boy pants on and say no. You're just mad because I spyglassed your Commander.
Anyway, my point is that I think that if let's be honest, like, common knowledge is about improving at Magic with a focus on Pauper play. So if you're listening to this podcast, you probably want to get better at Pauper, and that's okay for that to like be in your head. That doesn't mean, if that's not your goal, that like this show's not going to be fun for you, or that like the content that Lobbert's creating isn't going to be fun for you. Lobbert's a brewer. He's gonna brew. And then in addition to that, he's gonna try and make his content better and more enjoyable for you. What could be important for you, the listener, doesn't have to be the same things that are important for Lobbert, and that's one of the best parts about Magic, I guess.
I think a bunch of listeners just realized that you're the voice in the intro, and I don't think we've ever mentioned it. So you said a focus on Pauper play.
Yeah, hey, same guy.
What's up, guys? You've heard my voice before.
Like every week.
All right, Brandon, what are your goals in Magic right now?
This is actually a relatively new goal for me, because if you've listened to the show the last month, you'll know that when we get to the What Are You Playing segment, maybe 50% of the time I'll say I didn't play a single game of Magic this week. And I've just been consumed with a lot of other stuff. I just got my professional certificate in culinary arts. I'm opening, my own business. I've got a lot of other stuff going on, and Magic was put on the back burner. But after I think like the second week in a row that I said I didn't play any Magic, I just felt like tremendously guilty. Like, how can I get on this show as your host and expect you guys to listen to what I have to say if I haven't played a single game of Magic in 2 weeks? Like, that's not acceptable, right?
Yeah.
So I made a goal, for one, to be a better host. It's what I want. I want to be the best host I can be. I want to be the best, most knowledgeable I can be at this format. I want people that when they come to me and ask me a question, which has happened too. And this is something that blew me away. Someone IM'd me on Facebook and was like, I need some advice about Scred Delver. And I'm like, I haven't played a game of Scred Delver in like 2 weeks. Let me do my best, but that's unacceptable. And to attain this goal, I have set a goal, and I've made it a SMART goal because that's how I do. I'm going to play 1 league a week minimum, no matter how busy I get. If it means I have to stay up until 1 a.m. jamming games, to make room for it, I'm going to do it, because this is what I want to do. I want to keep being your host, and I want to keep proving that I'm capable of being a good host, and that you guys can listen to what I have to say, and you can come to me for advice, and I'm going to hopefully be able to give you something worth listening to. And to do that, I'm just going to start by playing 1 league a week. And as my free time opens up, I'm maybe going to move that to 2 leagues a week, or maybe I'm going to get to a point where my Sundays are more free, and I'm going to say I'm going to play 1 challenge a week. But for right now, I'm going to play 1 league of Pauper a week. Right now, it's going to be with Scred Delver, just because that's the deck I have the most fun playing. I have had a lot of fun playing Tireless Tribe, though, but that's my goal.
Now that you know the sweetness of Is It Blitz, maybe you'll jump on the Is It Blitz train.
Well, the thing is, I can do the Shadow Rift thing in
Tireless tribe. The
Tribe
superior
too. I
deck.
just have 2 tribes out and then shadow rip your 1 blocker and get
There you
them.
go. Yeah. I don't need to. How do they even? Does it even matter at that point? You have 2 Tireless tribes out. They just die anyway.
It doesn't.
Isn't the thing an instinct?
I'm
You
gonna
just do the one that they don't block.
I'm gonna do it to be a smarty pants.
Okay.
I think I've actually lost to
I'm
them
gonna, like,
putting
divide it
Shadow
up.
Rift on my creature, and they just kept beating me in for like 4 a turn with Tireless Tribes, which is horrible, and my soul hurts.
I think that's a good goal. I think that like understanding where you're at in your life is really important. The number of times where I've set magic goals and then realized that I have a kid and a full-time job and a media company to run and, and a wife and a puppy and that I have to burn some number of calories per week to not die. Magic is a hard thing to balance in life because we get obsessive about it. So I think that's a good goal, Brandon.
Yeah. And for a really long time, my main Magic goal was queuing for a Pro Tour. And I was playing PTQs every week. And I started to see the stress that one put on me, but the stress that it put on my marriage, on my professional life, on my relationship with my son. And I was able to look at that, and I'm going to go back to the smart thing. And I just realized that maybe that was an attainable goal. Maybe I could queue for a Pro Tour, but was it realistic? At what cost? What was the opportunity cost for me queuing for a Pro Tour? And it wasn't worth it for me. And that's when I took a step back and started playing more EDH.
Good for you.
You're just trying to upset your co-host. Let me give you some advice. It's funny once, but 3 times as bullying as the host of the podcast.
He knows if he does this in person, he gets punched.
Have to get it all out here, Sean. So Sean has a few days to forget about it before we see each other in person.
Cool. I have a goal to talk less as a guest on future episodes of podcasts that I'm on.
What?
No, we brought you on so that you would talk more.
I know, but I felt like I took over this segment, and I feel bad.
No, it was perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
that's why you're here. You're the Pro Tour competitor.
Yeah. So Magic is an interesting place in my life. I help produce this show as much as they need me, which is not very much right now. But between this show and writing limited time only and produce and editing it and constructive criticism and constructive clash and like everything on the network, I try and have a little bit of a hand in. And we've gotten to the point, guys. Like, I don't know, we have like 7 shows on our network at this point, and it's quite amazing. We just started a daily stream from that goes Sunday to Thursday, so that you can play FNM and you can play your Grand Prix and you can play your challenges and stuff, and not have to worry about it. So it's like 11 p.m. every 11 p.m. Eastern every day. So right now my goal is to just like really focus on improving at Magic and becoming a good streamer. But in doing that, I also have a Magic goal of trying to get bronze in the next year. Bronze is 10 pro points for those who don't know. And in doing that, I have decided to attend every single Grand Prix that is 12 hours or less to drive to. Well, my wife got me a car for my birthday last year for Magic road trips and for stuff like that. So I'm just utilizing it, and it's something I agree with my wife. But before we wrap this up, I actually want to talk about something because of what Brandon just said and what I'm saying. And I hope that people realize that if you are in a partnership of any kind and you want to set goals in Magic, it's really important that you include them in those goals. Because if you walk up to your partner and you're like, hey, I just made a goal to play in every single Pauper challenge for the rest of forever, and your partner's like, I don't know what that is. And 2, how long does that take? How much money does it cost? Like, you're just going to start a fight? And I would recommend not starting a fight and instead saying, hey, I think I want to do this thing. What do you think about it? Just a tip from a guy that has had the other conversation a few times.
I'm glad we've talked about this as much as we have, because I don't know. I made a note in the doc. Like, I was going to ask, do you have any tips for not letting it consume you? Because I do fill every waking moment that I don't have to think about something else with just thinking about Magic, and I know it's like an obsessive problem for me.
We all have that problem. I think the truth is like people ask. This is actually one of probably the most common question that I've ever gotten since I started doing constructive criticism is like, how do you make time for Magic? About 1 year ago this week, there was this huge thread of content creators that was like, I actually don't play Magic anymore. Fun fact, I make Magic content and don't play Magic. I was like, what? How? Like, your content will just suffer from that. And the truth is like, I have very strict rules. I don't play Magic on Friday nights. Fun fact, I don't play FNM. I literally have not for 3 years. Because 3 years ago, I decided with my wife that Friday night was date night. Anytime that I wasn't attending a GP and I was traveling, like that's her night. That's end of story. It's not even a question. The idea of playing FNM or playing a Magic event Friday night doesn't even cross my mind. And then in addition to that, if I also don't play PPTQs on Sunday. I just don't. They take too long, too much of the day that could go to my family, and I don't do it. So I only play Saturday PPTQs. And you have to make those kind of concessions in a relationship and in business, and in like Magic is amazing, and it's so amazing that we actually want it to consume our entire lives. That's how fun it is. Like it's true, we really do. But the truth is that's how you end up looking like Spencer Howland, and you gain 200 pounds in, not really, that's a huge exaggeration. But you gain 100 pounds, and from your first feature match on SEG to this podcast, you look like a completely different person because you've let Magic consume your life. And there's got to be a balance. And the truth is that it's up to you and your partner, if you have one, to kind of decide what that balance needs to be. Because if it's not a conversation, then you're just dictating things to your partner. And I make very strict rules. I know KYT from First Strike Podcast. He also doesn't play FNM anymore. He spends it with his now wife. Congratulations, KYT, on getting married. I think just this week. Like you have to decide that with them. Like what do you need from me, and do that. And then as far as the non-relationship part of it, do what makes you happy. Like if doing 30 hours of Magic makes you really happy, cool. Just like don't burn yourself out.
Yeah, and it's not only your significant other, it's your dishes, it's your laundry.
It's your dishes.
Like seriously, I haven't done my dishes in a bit.
No,
and...
I actually did have this problem when I really got into Magic, where I don't think I did my dishes for like a couple months, and we couldn't walk in our kitchen; it smelled so bad. So I highly recommend doing your dishes. Just throwing that one out there, Sean. I promise it only takes like 10 minutes if you do it every time.
I know,
yeah,
it's like,
if you just clean as you go, you literally never have to do dishes.
Yeah, so it doesn't take
Play
that long.
Magic while I'm doing my dishes?
As you're rolling out your pasta, clean your pasta machine.
That's intense.
Super easy.
I was thinking more along the lines of like, remember when your mom said like, after your chores are done, you can go play Magic? I would kind of treat it like that. After your dishes are done, you get to go play Magic. So you're just your mom now. Fun fact, you got promoted to Sean's mom, Sean.
Okay, before we get any more like Freudian or anything like that, do we want to wrap this up?
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add to what Spencer said. That was really well put.
I just want to say thanks for having me on. This was fun.
Thank you for being on.
Yeah, and for producing the show. Secret getting Brandon that mic, like we actually said on the podcast. So not a secret.
Okay, well, that's going to do it for the show today. Thank you guys so much for listening. Don't forget to check out our sponsor, puremtgo.com. They've got a bunch of awesome Magic content there, articles, deck lists, podcasts. Give them a look. If you want to get a hold of us, you can do so at commonknowledgemtg@gmail.com. You can email us there. And if you like the show, you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/common knowledge. You'll be able to check out Sean and I's awesome versus videos where Sean grabs a brew and I usually play a stock deck, and depends on if I win the die roll or not, how those games go, right, Sean?
Yeah, you've been winning all of the die rolls lately.
Yes. Don't forget, you can also find the rules for our 5-card blind tournament, which is our Patreon stretch goal of $50. So head over there, check all that stuff out, figure out the rules for that and how that's all going to work out. And lastly, Sean, where can the listeners find you if they want to contact you?
You can find me on Twitter at Lobbert8, Lobbert, and then the number 8. You can also find my YouTube videos if you just search on YouTube for Lobbert. Where can they find you?
You'll be able to find me on Twitter also at bclark_CK. And don't forget, you can also just follow the show on Twitter too at CK Podcast MTG. And lastly, to our gracious guest, Spencer, where can the listeners find you?
You can find me on Twitter at SpencerStephenH. You can find me on Facebook at Spencer Stephen Howland. You can find me every week on ConstructorCriticism.com, Constructed Clash, and every Thursday on the Trophy Mages, a daily stream about getting better at Magic and where we go through Elite together. You can find the network at ConstructorCriticism.com, where you can find all of the amazing shows that we're doing and all of the things that we're trying to do to help not only ourselves improve, but everybody else improve at Magic. So,
Boom.
I've never done that before, so only like 400 times.
Wasn't your first rodeo. Boom. That was the show. Do you have something else to say?
Just laughing.
Okay. That was the show. Thank you guys for listening. That was Common Knowledge. You're welcome.
Bye.
Common Knowledge is part of the Constructed Criticism Network.